Hello, this podcast is recorded on Gadigal country and we pay our respects to the First Nations custodians of the land, both here and also wherever you're listening from.
Hello, Crabb here, actually holding a script so that I don't witter on. Thank you, Lee Sales. If you love this podcast and you'd like to support us, check out details at our website, chat10looks3.com. You can click on podcast, then support the pod. There are free options and also paid subscriptions starting at $2 a month. Thank you for your support, helping us keep this ramshackle pony on the road.
So last time we met, I promised that I would pick up on slow horses.
Yes, you did.
Have you watched Slow Horses?
Yes, I watched series 1.
Okay. Have you read any of the books on which it's based?
No, I have not. No.
Okay. And so have you not watched on just busy or you didn't like it or?
Look, I think I got such a big ups about it that my expectations were like up here and I thought it was good, but it didn't make me want to like jump up and down on the sofa.
Yeah.
So, and at the end of it, I think maybe I had one of those things where when I was watching series 1, I was a bit distracted. I had a lot going on for some reason. I think it might have been in it, like I might have just been in a bit of pain or something and I kind of lost track of some of the plots, which I do get sometimes with spy things. I'm like, sorry, but who was the...
Yeah.
And then someone rips off their face and you go, oh, but so hang on, how does that work with the...
I had several goes to say exactly the same thing. So multiple people
twist,
had told me, oh, you'll love Slow Horses, you got to watch it. I had several attempts to start it and abandoned it.
Right.
And then finally I had a few days and I was like, I'm going to just knuckle down. And it took me a couple of episodes.
We're going to work on this relationship.
Into it, yeah. And then now I really like it. But I think a bit like you, there's certain things where I'm just like, who is this Russian person? Who are these? Why are they working for them? I just let go of it and just kind of roll with it.
So you can get... Because it makes me feel anxious that I don't know who the Russian person is. I'm like, but wasn't that and then I go down that little rabbit hole and I think, oh God, this is exactly like that bit in The Sopranos where I'm like, who is
you just
Fat
have to
Alex?
let go of it.
I thought, is that Tony's person or like...
Isn't it funny how happily with a spy drama I'm able to go, oh, you just need to let go of it. But a romantic comedy, absolutely not. I'll be right up you if you're doing something illogical.
Yeah.
Look, I think the Brits, I think also the bar for a spy drama for you and I is high because we loved the Americans so much and we loved the Bureau so much that it's hard to, every time I start a spy thing, I'm like, is it going to be the Bureau? And of course, nothing can be the Bureau. So
right. See, but the thing is, with the Bureau and with the Americans, I didn't get that brain fuzz. I'm like, I know what's going on. And I think maybe what both of those series were really about were human relationships. And I have a great literacy, like I find that easy to follow, even if it's complicated, because I'm like, oh, she feels like this because that.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Whereas I think with Slow Horses, and you do find, I think with spy thrillery type things, they feel like they've got to throw in a bunch of plot twists that are not consistent with or supported by the emotional landscape. And I can follow the emotional landscape really easily. And what I loved about the Americans was it was really just like, where do your loyalties lie? Where do they lie now? And now? And what about when we do this? Like, so every plot twist actually elevates the tension on a relationship.
Oh, good point. Okay, I think
Thank you. It just occurred to me, but like I think that's why I get confused.
I think you've just explained to me something too with what I'm really enjoying Slow Horses, but I'm not completely in love with it. And I think you've just put your finger on why, which is I've watched 2 seasons of it. There's 4 altogether. I've reached a point where I feel like I'm not getting enough backstory of any of these people and I need to understand. They're dribbling out little bits of it. But say, for example, the Kristen Scott Thomas character, who she's kind of like the M equivalent.
Yeah, and I'd watch her in anything. And
she's awesome. Yeah. She's like the director of operations at MI5, not the head of MI5, but a big
I love
cheese
how you've
in MI5.
like, so you know the organisational structure of MI5? Well, you think she's up here. She isn't. She's really more of a...
I need to know a little bit more about her We don't know. Is she married? Does she have children? How is she? Has she got aspirations to be I assume she wants to be the boss of MI5.
Not everybody has to be the boss, Sales.
That's it. So I need to understand that with that person. And the Gary Oldman character, we've had a few, and the uncle of whatever his name Loudon is, Jonathan Pryce, who also is an amazing. It's full of amazing British actors
for sure.
We're getting like dribbles of their backstories, but I feel like, okay, I need to know a little bit more here about you people because I'm not sufficiently invested in you as characters. And then the Gary Oldman character, I mean, Gary Oldman, as I said, he's incredible and he so embodies that character. Like, as I said last time, I feel like I can smell the dude. Like,
you can, like the whiskey is just pulsing off him.
It's a foul, stale alcohol smell and the unwashed, I can just, and the hair, I can
whiskery,
smell
kind
it
of dandruffy.
He's incredible.
Dank.
But for a dude who clearly is a, extreme alcoholic who starts drinking whiskey when he gets into the office at, 9 a.m. or whatever, he's very functional, and I need some more context for him too. Yeah. So I'm hoping. I mean, people who are in season 4 who are ahead of us have been raving about season 4.
Oh, okay.
So I'm assuming it's going to unfold a bit more, and I'm going to get some of this. What I feel I'm.
Do you think I could watch season 3 without watching season 2?
No, actually, no.
Just employing you as my slow horses Sherpa here.
I'm just thinking because
I'm already confused, if that helps.
Yeah. Okay, so you know how in season 1 they established that Jonathan Pryce, I think, used to be the head of MI5, or he was some like big cheese Cartwright, was the big old man Cartwright, and that's why it's so embarrassing that his grandson's in the slow horses. Slow horses, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a unit in a place called Slough House, which is for agents who've disgraced themselves by screwing up on a mission, and they put into this sort of thing with the other slow horses, and they're held in contempt by the main.
It's a great premise.
Yeah. So you know how it's kind of established that the woman who's the PA to Gary Oldman, her boss has been found. You could be
barking at me right now. You could be actually barking at me. So I don't if this is helpful for you, then keep going. Because I'm just at a party where someone's like, so anyway, I'm in sports
so
management.
Anyhow, solar panels, here's how they work. Okay.
I've always wondered about that.
I guess the shorthand way to explain it is, you know how in any show, like The Americans was kind of like this, where there'll be like an episodic mission that they're on, right? And so that's the little plot thing. Yeah. But then there'll be a bigger thread that's running through, which might be that Paige is, uncovering that the family's a bit shonky. Yeah. There's a through line about the relationship between Gary Oldman, old man Cartwright, and the PA. And little dribbles of that are getting dribbled out. Right. But I suspect that they're going to become quite significant.
Oh, okay. So I've got to do the hard yards.
I think you'd have to do the hard yards. All right. I don't think you can just phone it in.
Okay.
Like I did with Breaking Bad. I watched season 1 of Breaking Bad, and then I watched season 6 of Breaking Bad, the final season. And people, when I say that, who are Breaking Bad fans,
just vomiting. Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah, you missed a bit. Yeah. Stuff happened.
Nonetheless, I found the final season of Breaking Bad absolutely brilliant. I loved it, even with none of the context. Everyone, when they say you needed the context, I'm like, I know the context. The dude was a chem teacher and he became a meth maker, and I assume he just, over the next 5 seasons, he just got more and more rough and rugged, and then now he's an axe murderer or something. Yeah, that's it. I got it.
Dickens, wrote some books. So what?
Anyway, Slow Horses, I liked it.
Good. Okay. Yes, good. I have started watching something that I am loving so much, that partly because I like to imagine what was happening when it was being made. The show is called The Franchise.
Haven't heard it.
Well, one of the EPs, executive producers, is Marina Hyde.
Oh.
And so when, over the last little while, I've been listening to her podcast, God Lover, friend of the show, and Richard Osman's podcast, The Rest is Entertainment, which is, I still find, a tremendous thing to listen to, partly because of their deep knowledge of elements of the entertainment industry that I'm like, oh, so that's why that happens. Anyway, when they're talking about things like the catering on a big shoot, I'm like, how does Marina Hyde know about that? She knows about that because she's been making this show, right? Oh. So The Franchise, so it's it's made by Armando Iannucci and Sam Mendes. So
Good pedigree.
right?
Yeah.
And it's about a Marvel-style franchise. They're making a giant movie, but the company's kind of falling apart. I mean, it's actually all happening. So it's like a true story retold in fiction, right? And so the director of this giant epic is this unusual man who's facing all these conflicting demands from stars. Richard E. Grant's in there.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole group of people that are dressed as fish people. They're really needy. They're kind of like, my face is itching from this fish outfit. I think I need to take it off. I think I might be having an anaphylactic reaction. They're like, that took 4 hours to put on. You just shut up. Have a glass of water. You'll be fine. And there's this beautiful shot in the first episode that is like, do you ever see the movie Henry IV?
No.
Kenneth Branagh made it, I think. And there's like a 10-minute take that is non-stop walking through the battlefield, with just dead and dying everywhere. And it's like, I don't remember anything else about the movie except that shot, which is just, even if you don't work in television, you watch it and you just go, high degree of difficulty.
Right.
Like, given that most takes are 30 seconds tops. 10 minutes is pretty incredible. And there's this kind of shot that's similar that basically follows through the entire set of this large, preposterous, stupid storyline, superheroes, fish people. The fish people get cut halfway through and they've all got to be told that they're gone from the movie. And they're all like, but will I still get my per diem? And they're like, not my problem, talk to the studio. It's chaos. And the person who's kind of the central character is the first AD, the first assistant director.
Right.
Who's this massively put upon guy. He's a great actor I'm not familiar with at all. Who I immediately liked. His name is Himesh Patel. And he's getting a divorce or has been divorced. His wife is constantly ringing and shouting at him. He is overworked. He is constantly vaping. He's unwell. He's super unhappy. He hates this whole thing. All of the shit gets dumped on him. Fix this, fix that. You're going to have to tell the fish people that they're all gone. It's just... And
so is it that kind of, I guess, black comedy style that...
It's very funny.
Okay, like that Iannucci kind of...
Yeah.
Right.
So it's behind the scenes of a huge operation that is full of frauds, cads, bounders, opportunists, assholes, giant egos, weirdos, and there's this one sort of normal person who's just putting up with all of it.
And so did Marina write it as well as EP it?
I'm not entirely sure.
Right.
I feel like there's lines where you're like, there's my girl.
Oh, right.
It's funny. It's very dark. It is. I cannot wait for the next episode. So I've watched 2 episodes now. They're only 30 minutes long. And they're doing that thing that the streamers now do where they decide to be linear television.
Yeah.
They're
what's it on?
Gonna say maybe binge.
Okay. Yeah, they
because
like putting out one a week.
Remember I texted you and I said, because this is a true story, people. You came to my house for dinner once and I was telling you about, it wasn't a dinner party, but there were other guests. So
There's one other guest other than you.
Right.
It was you and Jeremy and one other person.
Right. So we were talking about The Rehearsal, that show that was on Binge.
Yes.
And you don't, or didn't at this point, have Binge, but you have a friend who had Binge. And you were so interested in our discussion of The Rehearsal that you then cut out of dinner, made your excuses, and went to your friend's house and watched the first episode of The Rehearsal.
9:15, I decided, I'm done at dinner, but I really want to go watch that show.
And then texted me later saying, yeah, so I went round to my friend's house and watched it. Yeah, it's really good. I'm like, okay, but dessert was nice.
Spare a thought for the unsung hero of this story, my friend who gets a text going, any chance I could come around and at 9 p.m. watch a bit of TV?
Yeah.
And then I literally showed up and literally just wanted to watch a bit of his television.
Yeah. Anyway, it's on. That makes me, I know it's on Binge because I texted you and I'm like, well, either
okay,
you're going to have to hit up some friend or you can watch it at my house or you could just pay for the goddamn subscription.
True that. I do really want to watch that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Marina, I just read Richard Osman's new book because they host a podcast together called We Solve Murders. Now, as you know, I was a huge fan of the is it called the Thursday Murder Club? Is that what it's called? Yes.
Mate, you're its global PR director. Like, how would you not know the name of the book? It's just, what?
I just forgot for a second.
Okay.
That series of Richard Osman books set in their retirement village where they're solving murders. Okay, if you loved all of them, you will love We Solve Murders. Mm-hmm. What he's done is clearly wanted some holidays around the world because it's shifted from being just a regional England setting to a big international.
See, this is the dream.
Yeah.
Why don't we
it's
write
in Jamaica,
like giant
in
commercially
Hawaii,
successful books?
It's in Ireland. Like
How have we not
it's in
done
Dubai.
that?
It's all over. It's set all over the place.
Just like whoever came up with the idea of a White Lotus is like, I'm sort of
exactly. Mm-hmm. It's very similar in kind of voice and style and tone to the Thursday Murder Club books. So yeah, you'll be all over it if you liked that. So perfect kind of easy holiday read. I knocked it over in 3 seconds.
Just remembered to tell you about like a TV series that I watched in one sitting recently.
Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah.
Must have loved it.
Yeah. So it's series 2 of a show called We Are Lady Parts.
You have talked about season 1 of that and you loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then suddenly there's a season 2. So the whole point of this show is it's a all-girl Muslim punk band.
Right.
And they like
that's right.
4 totally different chicks. One of them's in a burqa the whole time. They get together and they just like play really hardcore music. And they do it like sort of for themselves, but obviously, you know, they encounter all sorts of differing responses to what they do. And all of the characters are just like fabulously well realized. You love them for different reasons. Like there's the super aggressive, angry one, and there's the kind of like, ugh, will you just get over it one? There's the like, they're just, anyway, I love all the characters. And so when season 2 came up, I'm like, oh, yes, I'm ready for more of that. And I always feel that way at the end of a TV series. And it wasn't immediately obvious to me like what the next step was going to be, because in series 1, essentially it's, you know, does the band come off? Like, but the second series is about they encounter some success, and then it's sort of like, oh, we're with a record label now. They want us to do this, this, and this. And there's a bit of like, oh, hang on, you're interested in us because what? Because, oh, we're a novelty act? Well, And then, so all of that happens. And it's just, couldn't stop watching it. It's just, like it's got light and shade. It's very funny. It's sort of profane, but also a bit profound in places too. And it's original, it's well realised, and it's not kind of like, you know, sometimes there's a kind of like, oh, but this, like, what if they were a rock band, but they were all Muslim women, and then like the issues that would arise. It doesn't feel that kind of crappily obvious. They all have, you know, great dramas and kind of elements in their lives that are not to do with being Muslim women in a punk band. It's just the organising principle.
So I remember when you told me about this and thinking, yeah, okay, I should watch it, and now you've told me about it again. So that you don't think that I always ignore your recommendations, there's something else that you have recommended to me repeatedly that I did actually get around to watching.
Did it work out for you?
Breeders.
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't even have to ask. Of course. And now you'll explain to me at length why this show that I've been nagging you to watch for about 5 years is really good. I've
been wanting to have a debrief about it. Okay, so it is really good, and I laughed aloud. The opening scene, which is Martin Freeman, who was in The Office and those Tolkien movies.
One of the great actors of his generation, I think. Like, he could act a whole part just using his face, not saying anything. Like, he's got the best face.
Yeah. It's basically the premise is it's a husband and wife who have a, you know, pretty happy marriage, and they have 2 kids. They're raising the kids, and their parents, her mother and his parents, kind of live nearby, and then they have jobs, and that's it. That's just the premise, basically. It's observational, you know, humour / drama. So the opening scene is his kids are upstairs playing. The kids are about 5 and 7. He's downstairs. The noise is really pissing him off, and he's kind of just goes upstairs to tell them to be quiet, and you're hearing, I can't remember if he's saying it loud or if it's the voice track in his head, but he's saying like, just be a better person, just keep calm, just keep it under control, you know, blah, blah, blah. Can keep your anger in check. And then he opens the door and just screams at them, "There's fucking noise, you fucking little assholes." And then he just lets absolutely rip. Now, I was just crying with laughter because, my God, I've wanted to say and do that so many times, but have never have. And part of the premise of the show is the parents often say or do things that it's like they take it a step beyond what you would actually ever do in reality.
Yeah, half the time you're watching, you're kind of going.
Yeah. And so I do really enjoy it, and I think they're all amazing, but I have hit a point with it where the father has bad anger issues, and I've actually hit a point where I find his behaviour so...
It's Martin Freeman's character.
Yeah. So genuinely kind of emotionally abusive that I feel almost like I'm wondering if I want to watch on.
It gets worse. So, I mean...
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that I think is so original and kind of edgy and compelling about the series. Because, like, who's the fabulous woman who plays the wife? Is it Daisy? She's like, I can't remember her name. Which is ridiculous. She's amazing, and she's in Would You Mind?
She's fantastic.
She's been in so many great things, and she is incredible. Like the show's strength derives from their nuanced performances.
Brilliant.
Because
Daisy Haggard, yeah.
So, and they love each other very much, and they still have a good time sometimes, but also his anger issues are just so smouldering and festering, and it's because there are a bunch of series, you see the kids grow up over the series, and it turns into a major issue.
Yeah.
Like where the kids are just like, particularly the son is just like, I actually can't cope with your anger.
I'm in that bit at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I find really, as you say, the key to it is, well, it's really good writing, but the nuance between the two leads and the parent, everyone in it, the kids, all of them, Darren, the dude, her work offsider, they're all just, every one of them is fantastic. It's the way that, so because the parents are actually really tight and have a good relationship, and they kind of bond over going upstairs and having a glass of wine and a smoke on the balcony and getting away from the kids and so on. But the wife kind of really minimises for a long time his kind of angry outbursts.
She does.
It's because you just get used to what's in your environment all the time, so it seems kind of normal.
And that's why, like, the show really pokes into some very, just when you think that you've settled in a sustainable place watching this relationship, something happens and you go, oh, no, that's not okay. Like, I mean, so much of it is not okay. Yeah. And I think it's a really realistic examination of how circumstances change. Yeah. You know how people are like, well, why do you stick around? Like, this is a bit of an examination of that in a really kind of original way.
Absolutely.
And tonally, to pull that off where there's still scenes that make you just piss your pants laughing. Yeah. And then suddenly you're kind of like, oh, this is terrible. And there's a scene, I think it's in one of the later series, so you may not have got it yet. This isn't really a spoiler, but like there's a scene where she wants to catch up with the chicks from her mummy's group. You know, she runs into one of them at a party. Oh, hey, Sheila, like, how are you? Oh, we should get back together like the old times. And she decides to sort of have a like party, you know, a wine night or something, and invite these 4 chicks that were in her mummy's group. And when they all turn up and the event's underway, she's highly nervous. She's like, I want to make it look like I'm, you know, a great mum and whatever. So she's made cupcakes and all this sort of bullshit that she doesn't ordinarily do. She's tidied up. She's bought a tablecloth. Like, she's putting on a performance. And then she realises that all of them have actually all kept up seeing each other. Ugh. And that she's the only one that hasn't seen all of them for ages. Right. They all know each other's subsequent children's names, and she's like, the penny drops. And then she works out that they just couldn't handle her husband.
Wow.
It is very interesting and sort of almost unbearable to watch.
Wow. Okay, that maybe I will carry on because that sounds pretty good. It's really rich like that, isn't it? The way it keeps kind of unfolding and the complexities of the characters where they both do things that are kind of unappealing. I started out, I mean, it's got that quality that I know you and I both like in a TV show, which is you can't quite tell, is it a comedy, is it a tragedy, is it a drama? It definitely is traversing all of that terrain all the time.
Yeah.
It's quite an accomplishment, I think.
But imagine like just what Martin Freeman manages to pull off in terms of kind of flashes of intense likability and decency.
Yes.
And then even with the same facial expressions, he'll hit some point where he's angry or he's sort of, or like, you know, somebody does something to him in the traffic or in a shop and he, you know, like you kind of like make a choice whether to step off or insist and get angry, and watching everybody around him react when he decides to go for, no, I'm not letting this go.
Or the other thing, which is part of the bit I'm in at the moment too, which is where, you know, he is absolutely happily married. He really loves his wife and he's quite the devoted family man, but then just flirting with somebody and kind of like, oh, I'm just enjoying having this little flirtation with a person and I might wag off the rest of the day and go to a movie and just liking the ego hit of it and the buzz of it. Like that character, the complexity of the way it captures what human beings are like all the good bits about people and all the bad bits and all the different ways they all interact in the same person. It's done incredibly well.
And I think it also, the other thing that it explores, and this is kind of like it's sort of quite a taboo thing, I think, to talk about, is resentments, you know, that you have against your own children for coming in and like interrupting you when you're just trying to do this one thing. Like, I just need 10 minutes by myself to do this one thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's so dumb and it doesn't mean anything in terms of your relationship to your kids, but like, and resentments inside relationships as well, particularly when you've got little kids, like, you know, like crimes against the sleep economy, for instance.
Oh, for sure.
You know, like when you've got multiple little kids and you've been awake all night because one of them's sick or whatever, like you just go through that period where just no one's sleeping and the whole world has a slightly grey cast to it because you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
And then somebody goes for a nap and you're like, why do you get a nap?
And also how, like, there's a really great episode that was actually a hard watch, which is where the son gets sick. He's got like a virus or something and he ends up in hospital and the mum's been working in Berlin because she had a job opportunity there and they've agreed like it's a good thing for her and dad's going to hold the fort and all of the rest of it. And it's those little moments that build up, like somebody's had a nap or someone's been away and you're supportive of it, but you have just banked that they got a nap and you didn't get a nap. All those little things that have been banked. And then when they hit the crisis and she's like in Berlin when it hits and he kind of takes a bit of time to realise the kid's as sick as the kid is and blah, 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 blah. He makes the kid come to a work meeting and
and she's like, what are you doing over there?
And then she gets to the hospital and they have to make this call about whether to put him into an induced coma to allow time for this thing to pass. And he sort of says to her, what do you think? Or she says to him, what do you think? And whoever it is explodes, it must be him, and says, you're not fucking putting this decision on me. Like, you are not. And it's kind of like, it's all those other things that have not been said that you've kind of been observing as the viewer and that they've been living out that then come to unfold in that one moment. And nobody ever says, like, because you've been off in Berlin, or she never says, why did you take 24 hours to get him to the doctor or whatever. No one ever says any of that because you don't need to. It's just sort of, you know, unstated. I mean, this again, it just pulls me back to the discussion in the last pod about nobody wants this. Like a show like this or like Fleabag, they don't even compare. It's like comparing, you know, a beautifully cooked 5-star meal to Macca's. Like sometimes Macca's is good and sometimes you want something more substantial. But the level of and the layers of these kind of shows like Breeders and Fleabag, it's really amazing.
And that one set in LA that we watched all billions of seasons of with
oh, yeah, Better Things.
Better Things.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah. So don't try and not betray on your face what's going to happen. I keep wondering, are Martin Freeman and Daisy going to stay together? Like, is the relationship going to actually
Do you want to know the honest answer to that? I can't remember.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I can't remember. And that in itself is really significant, isn't it? Because the point of that show is never the giant plot twist or the, you know, destination. Will they stay together, won't they?
It's true.
Because they're together and apart in the most profound sense all the way along.
100%. And it's kind of a flip of a coin, right? It's kind of irrelevant as to whether they do or they don't because
they're still going to be raising these kids, right? Like, I mean, so they're never going to walk away and never see each other again or whatever. They're still, you know.
But I guess part of the function of his parents, who are also great characters, I mean, that they serve a really interesting role, but part of it is because it reminds you that if you can just kind of brave it out and get through all of that, you're going to hit a point towards the end of your life where you're going to have this person that you've done all of that with and you've got all of that shared history and experience. And then, you know, it's kind of life's a bit sort of, you know, more evened out than it was. But then also I think the other function of his parents is, and I mean, maybe this becomes clearer as you go on, but it's the thing of wondering, why is he so angry? Where are these anger issues coming from? And there's a lot of scenes where he and the father are having a beer at the pub. It's clear that the father's been very kind of emotionally buttoned up, which Martin Freeman is trying to not replicate with his kids, and he's trying to be a much more affectionate kind of father and connected.
There's a whole
to them.
plot line coming up with his parents that I think you'll find really interesting.
Oh, good. Okay, well, maybe I am going to have to carry on with this, even though I am finding his anger hard going.
Yeah, I think I would continue with it. I mean, you just take a break when you, because it does get quite overwhelming.
Well, that's why I started with Slow Horses, because I was just
like, give me some of that hot Gary Oldman reek of stale whiskey. I'm ready, baby. We've done it again, haven't we?
We have done it again. Banged on too long about one particular thing. But anything else you wanted to whack in?
Look, I went to visit the Museum of Australian Democracy the other day. Geez, that's
I've never been to that.
It's the old Parliament House, but it's been reinvented as a kind of examination or record of Australian democracy. It's just like such a significant building. It's completely soaked in Australian history. You walk around and you think, how on earth was this a parliament so small? The offices are so tiny. You can go and see Bob Hawke's old office. Like, there's a lot of artefacts there. But also there's like really good explainers about how original and kind of bizarrely fit for purpose the Australian electoral system is. They've got exhibits that explain that to kids really well. And there's this amazing exhibit called Dear Democracy, which is just, there's an old typewriter and they get people to write letters to the Prime Minister or to, you know, and some of them are just hilarious and you read them all. Anyway, I don't know. That's something that I did recently.
Is this where they've got, maybe I'm thinking of something different. Is this where they've got the room set up that's like the replica of what Charlie Perkins used to stay in when he used to go to Canberra?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking something different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, they've always got new things sort of happening. Anyway, I just really liked it and I thought, geez, that's a great institution. Like, it's an intelligent use of a building that is no longer a parliament, but it's I was surprised at how sticky it was. You know, it just really drew me in, and I can see it's one of the places that kids who go to Canberra in year 6, you know, go and visit. It's just, anyway, I hadn't been there for a while and I thought, yeah, it's really awesome. It's so cool. I found recently we're just running out of time before we run out of content. But Canberra show, we've got so much great stuff in the can to talk about.
Yes.
Obviously your stupid lists that you make me do, but also
December 6th, Canberra people, jump online and check if there's tickets left. That show usually moves pretty quick, but hopefully there are. So just Google Chat 10.
Yeah, and Gwen will be there with her like
Christmas
traveling
merch.
merch-tastic. So, you know, anybody you hardly know but you feel obliged to get an annoying present for, we're your ladies.
See you there.
Bye.